Told you I could help. You're so glad I tagged along.
A-Bomb Origins Explored. A-Bomb, also known as Richard Milhouse, Rick Jones, is a character in the Marvel Comics who usually appears as a sidekick to many greats like the Incredible Hulk, Bruce Banner, Captain Marvel, and Captain America. If you have seen our video on the Red Hulk, then you might remember his character from that storyline. Rick was the human Banner rescued from the experimental Gamma bomb test site. He has been a part of many Marvel storylines since his inception into the Marvel Universe, like the Kree-Skrull War and the Destiny War. However, as we will explore in the video, Rick lost his powers later on. Today, we will explore the origins of the A-Bomb in detail, so sit back and keep watching. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Call me the Camouflage Kid.
A-Bomb tragic backstory from Hulk and the Agents of Smash. Hulk and the Agents of Smash bring in a rather different side of the Hulk. The show portrays an intelligent Hulk along with Rick Jones or A-Bomb as his sidekick and best friend. Hulk has never had a good reputation with the public or the media, so Rick proposed a plan to show the real Hulk to the world. He wanted to create a reality show where floating cameras followed Hulk as he did things to help the world. While Rick told Hulk this idea, an alarm blared, indicating trouble. Hulk immediately ran out to help the people of his hometown Vista Verde, the only people who loved the Hulk. In the town, there was a storm blowing. Hulk rescued a little girl from flying away while the military threatened him, treated him like a threat, and asked him to leave the girl. At this moment, Rick acts as the mediator in the conversation and helps Hulk. However, Hulk just calmly gave the girl to one of the soldiers because there were bigger problems than the military at the moment. There was a vortex of energy forming over Vista Verde. Turns out, that reason for the vortex was Annihilus, who wanted to invade the Earth. Vista Verde was the only place on Earth with enough gamma energy for Annihilus to invade the Earth. However, he didn't come out of the vortex himself. He sent his sidekick, Scar, instead. Scar proceeded to engage in battle with the Hulk. The two of them were equally matched in strength. Rick kept trying to help the Hulk, but he was just a human with no extraordinary strength. Then Red Hulk showed up to help Hulk. The two of them worked well together and made Scar unconscious and took him to Hulk's lair. They kept him in an anti-gravity tank, but he broke out of it and stole their gamma ray gun. Scar used the gun to shoot gamma energy at the vortex in order to release Annihilus from it. He was successful in doing so, but in the ensuing battle, Red Hulk was taken into the vortex and Rick got hit with the full force of the gamma gun. Rick fell unconscious for a while and Hulk was extremely worried about his friend. Ultimately, Rick woke up but claimed he wasn't feeling too good and his eyes turned yellow. Hulk was on his way to get Rick some help when Rick fell from Hulk's arms onto a rock below. Hulk frantically tried to get Rick out from under the debris when a light started to glow from underneath it. Rick had turned into a blue Hulk because of the gamma radiation and he renamed himself as A-Bomb. Rick was ecstatic about his new development while Hulk was worried because there were implications of being a Hulk. But the task at hand was larger than that, so Hulk and A-Bomb went and got She-Hulk to help them get Red Hulk back and close the vortex. The three of them flew into the vortex to reach the negative zone. There, they found out that Scar and Red Hulk were under the mind control of Annihilus. Hulk and A-Bomb managed to free the two of them from the mind control, and the Hulk went to fight Annihilus while the rest of the team battled the minions. During the battle between Annihilus and Hulk, Hulk took control of Annihilus's cosmic control rod, broke it, and it left Annihilus powerless. The rest of the team was about to leave Hulk behind when A-Bomb refused and said that the Hulk is like a brother and he will not leave him behind. So everyone formed a chain, rescued Hulk, and brought him back to Earth. Rick Jones' backstory before becoming A-Bomb. Rick Jones was born an orphan who became an honorary Avenger later in life. life. Although he is sometimes described as the ultimate sidekick, the character's true personality is more angst-ridden. Rick Jones has always had the makings of a hero. He was a musician who was not only a fighter but also a rebel. So clearly, he was everything you needed to be a hero. As a teenager, the word fear was not in Rick's dictionary. Why do I say that? Well, I say it because he didn't think twice when his friends told him to infiltrate a military testing site. Unfortunately for him, when they entered the facility, they were unaware that the building served as a test site for an experimental military gamma bomb. Thankfully, just before the test bomb was set to go off, Bruce Banner saw Rick driving into the facility and rushed outside to save him. Rick was barely pushed into a trench by Banner as the explosion went off, irradiating Banner. In fact, Rick started following Banner around after the incident and even took Banner to the hospital to make sure that he was okay. Rick was right there with Banner when he turned into the Incredible Hulk. Rick felt a lot of loyalty toward Banner for saving his life, so he followed him even when he turned into the Hulk. He followed the Hulk as he broke out of the hospital by breaking a wall. He said, "You saved my life. You need me now. Wait, I'm going with you," and followed him to Banner's cabin where he kept his files on gamma radiation. He acted as the voice of reason for the Hulk when they found Igor, the Russian spy, going through Banner's cabin looking for his work on the gamma ray bomb. Rick was the one who stopped Hulk from killing Igor. He even helped Hulk turn back into Banner by making him remember his human half by showing him a photo of Banner. Just then, the police came in and Rick, rather foolishly, mentioned that Banner was the Hulk. However, the police officers and the troops did not believe him. Rick was with Banner through the various things he dealt with in his first couple of days as the Hulk. He stood by Banner's side throughout. He went to Russian jail with the Hulk when the Gargoyle captured them. Thankfully, the Gargoyle was just someone who wanted to go back to being human, which was something Banner was able to help him with. So they turned the Gargoyle back into a human and went on their way to America again. From a troubled teen to A-Bomb. Everything you need to know about A-Bomb's past. Rick Jones was a troubled teen since he was an orphan who was kicked out of various orphanages for misbehavior. Ultimately, he was sent to Tempest Town, a state-run facility, due to his behaviors. The institution's main administrator quickly became aware of Jones as a difficult and disobedient young man. The administrator was a violent man who destroyed Jones' guitar, a memorial from his father, and beat him up. Jones fled the facility shortly after that. He spent the first part of his adolescence traveling from town to town across the Southwest, attempting to elude the law and working odd jobs whenever possible. Jones got his license at 16 and bought a second-hand car. Using that very car, he entered the Gamma Test Bomb facility, resulting in Bruce Banner turning into the Hulk. After that, Jones became the Hulk's occasionally undesired friend and ally because he felt guilty of Banner's condition and was the only one who knew that the ravaging beast was truly Banner. Jones quickly put up the Teen Brigade, a team of adolescent ham radio enthusiasts, to assist him in keeping an eye on the Hulk's actions. Jones saw the Hulk's early run-ins with the army and battles with the superhuman foes, including the Gargoyle, the Toadman from another planet, the Ringmaster, Tyrannus, and the Metal Master, as well as an encounter with the Fantastic Four. Due to Rick's radio broadcast warnings about the Hulk and his run-ins, the Avengers came into existence. After that happened, he briefly served as Captain America's sidekick. He even wore Bucky's outfit briefly after Captain America noticed his likeness to Bucky. Captain America, however, believed that while Rick was a superb athlete, he was not nearly at the same level as Bucky, and he did not want to lose another teammate. So, Captain America vehemently objected when Iron Man proposed that Rick become a full-fledged member of the Avengers. Their adventures together finally ended when the Red Skull utilized the Cosmic Cube to transfer his consciousness to Captain America's body and Captain America's consciousness into his body. How? Well, when the Red Skull was inside Captain America's body, Rick strolled in and got slapped in the face. After that, Rick decided to stop being Captain America's companion and reverted to his previous nomadic lifestyle because he believed that the one who slapped him was Captain America. Later in the storyline, Rick worked with a Kree hero named Captain Mar-Vell. Due to his limited ability to function outside the negative zone for more than a few hours, Captain Mar-Vell was bound to Rick. While the Fantastic Four and Mar-Vell were engaged in combat with Annihilus, Mr. Fantastic was able to release Rick from the negative zone, releasing both men from their bonds with one another. Mar-Vell was hospitalized after an argument with the Avengers, and he and Rick were taken hostage by the Skrulls. As a result, the Kree-Skrull War broke out. Rick realized his own hidden potential here. His dormant Destiny Force abilities were activated when Rick was finally taken before the Supreme Intelligence. The Kree-Skrull War was ended by Jones, using them to immobilize the entire Skrull space fleet along with Ronan and his men, enabling the Supreme Intelligence to retake control. Jones was stripped of his authority by the Supreme Intelligence, leaving him worn out and on the verge of death. Like the Supreme Intelligence had intended, Mar-Vell had to be reconnected to Jones using the same method he had used before, using his own life force to cure him. Jones defeated the Supreme Intelligence by activating the Supreme Intelligence ship's weapons and causing a solar flare from Hala. However, Mar-Vell died, so Rick started working with the Hulk once more, and he tried to find a cure for the Hulk. However, instead of curing the Hulk and reversing gamma radiation's effects, Rick got radiation poisoning. Rick was about to get a large blood transfusion to heal his illness when the hospital came under siege by creatures the Dire Wraiths had created. After Rom, the Space Knight, saved him, Rick joined forces with Rom, Forge, Cindy Adams, and Starshine to take on the threat posed by the Dire Wraiths. He did this even though he knew he was slowly going to die. After the Wraiths were finally defeated, Rom and other Earth superheroes sent them all to Limbo and bid Rick and the Earth goodnight. Then Rick Jones and Starshine encountered the Beyonder, an extraterrestrial who gave Rick superhuman abilities. However, Rick wasn't able to manage having superhuman abilities, so the Beyonder took away his powers but left him healed and cancer-free. After this, he started leading a relatively normal life, trying to make it as a musician while simultaneously playing the role of a sidekick to heroes. Later on, we see that Rick tries to conduct an experiment to save the Hulk and Bruce. However, he fell into a chemical vat instead and turned to a mindless Hulk-like creature. In an effort to save Rick, Hulk permitted the leader to drain all of the extra gamma radiation into his body, further mutating the leader and forging a mental connection between the two. During that time, Rick started to hang out with him once more. Meanwhile, the Hulk's skin started to turn grey but still possessed some of Banner's intelligence. Up until the Hulk was allegedly slain by the leader, Rick, Clay, and the Quatermain brothers set out throughout the nation with the Hulk in an effort to locate and destroy any remaining gamma bombs. Meanwhile, Rick starts dating Marlo Chandler, the ex-girlfriend of Joe Fixit, when the Hulk makes a comeback. Yes folks, he wasn't dead. Rick joined the Hulk on the majority of his assignments for the Pantheon when the two Hulk personas melded into one, and the Pantheon invited him to join them. Rick and Hulk consent to assist in an AIDS charity event, with Rick performing and Hulk providing protection as a courtesy to their buddy Jim Wilson. Speed Freak, a drug addict assigned to assassinate one of the concert goers, interrupted the performance. Jim was wounded while defending the victim, and the Hulk eliminated Speed Freak so that he couldn't kill anybody else. Rick wanted to assist Jim, but was unable to do so since he had also been cut by Speed Freak, so he couldn't risk contracting the disease from Jim's blood. Fortunately, the Hulk was able to assist Jim because of his strengthened immune system. Hulk and Rick were dispatched to Florida Everglades to look into the disappearance of two teenagers who could have been connected to a missing Pantheon scientist when they returned to the Pantheon. The missing scientist, who had changed himself into the Glob, was murdered by the direct contact of the Man-Thing as he burst into flames when they were fighting the Man-Thing there. On one of their assignments with them, they battled with a rebel army in Trans-Sabal against the new government super team X-Factor as well as S.H.I.E.L.D. issue Mandroids. Farnog Dhan, a dictator who guaranteed the US government energy aid in exchange for their support in preserving his position as the undisputed leader, was in charge of the nation. He was revealed to be a maniac when Hulk and X-Factor prevented him from attaching a woman and kid to 2 different missiles and threatening to launch them unless the Pantheon didn't stop. When the dictator was compelled to answer to his subjects for the murders he had perpetrated, most of them still worshipped him like a god and knelt before him. Rick Jones, who had donned a mandroid suit and was traumatized, then shot and murdered the tyrant. Following the event, Rick returned to his apartment and stopped all interactions with the outside world until Marlo and Betty arrived and forced him to venture back into society. Unexpectedly, a lady who claimed to be Rick's mother appeared. She had photographs of the 2 of them as children and said that she had given Rick up for adoption when she was running from some criminals. The moment Rick gave in to the lady posing as his mother, she drugged him and imprisoned him in her basement. When Jackie speeds away leaving Rick's apartment, Marlo and Betty chase after her because they believe they spotted Rick in the car's passenger seat. Rick was devastated when Jackie killed Marlo. He was informed by the police that she had previously worked in an orphanage but had been sacked after it became clear that she was unstable. Rick asks everyone from Mr. Fantastic to Doctor Strange for assistance in bringing Marlo back. The leader was extremely irritated by Rick's mental distress, so he chose to revive Marlo to ease it. She was still alive, but she was unable to function without someone directing her. The process had been interrupted and her mind had not instantly returned with her body. They made Doc Samson examine her and he thought that she could simply be unconscious. When her brothers arrive and attempt to separate her from Rick after learning about her, Rick fights back despite being overcome with sadness. Since he refuses to give her over, they try to reason with Captain America's help, but the Hulk arrives and a fight breaks out. Her memory recovers as Rick is taken into custody by the police and their lives resume as normal. When he was at home, his distant future granddaughter Janice appeared and transported the Hulk into the future to battle the oppressive Maestro. A few weeks later, Rick pops the big question. Yes, he proposes and she accepts. The Impossible Man tries his best to stop the wedding, but he is unable to do so. Apocalypse has possession of the Hulk months later when the Absorbing Man appears and takes Rick and Janice to Cairo to assist in stopping the Hulk. Hulk cripples Rick after he intervenes in the fight. This results in the Hulk breaking his mind control when he sees his best friend's body. Hulk then flees in disgrace while Rick starts to have problems with Marlo as a result of losing his legs. Bruce is brought back along with the others of Earth's lost heroes and rebonds with the Hulk. With the assistance of Thunderbolt Ross's reappearance, Bruce is able to obtain a covert presidential pardon, and as a result, he, Betty, Rick, and Marlo all relocate to Area 102, a secure government facility. To enable Rick to walk, Bruce is able to persuade Tony Stark and Reed Richards to construct an exoskeleton for Rick. The Hulk takes over once Bruce sees his pal Rick walking once more. He leaps from the base, but the superhuman Rick follows him. Sadly, Rick has a heart attack since his body can't keep up with the exoskeleton, and Hulk brings them both back to Area 102. The following morning, they learn that Bruce attempted suicide and that Betty died from gamma poisoning. When Rick visits his friend, he discovers that he has fully lost his mind and is only communicating with hallucinations. Bruce then turns into the Hulk and leaves the base. Rick and Marlo's previous unstable marriage is destroyed by Betty's passing and Bruce's madness, and they separate. The Avengers are enlisted to assist Rick when he remains in Area 102, the brand new Hulkbuster outpost, and falls terribly ill. Later, Rick teamed up with the Avengers during Avengers Forever, bonding with Janice, Captain Marvel's son. They were linked to the Nega bands that had formerly linked Rick to Marvel, but they moved between Earth and Kia in the microverse rather than between Earth and the negative zone. Janice's dormant cosmic consciousness was awakened by their connection. Rick and Marlo had been attempting to reconcile their differences. The Skrulls intended to use the little girl as a weapon while the Silver Surfer wished to kill her since she held the potential to end the cosmos. They encountered the young girl on one of their initial adventures together. By instructing her to utilize her capabilities to change the time stream in order to prevent her from ever gaining the abilities, Rick managed to save her. Marlo and Rick make the decision to give their relationship another go and start dating. Thanos says that Marlo had served as Death's host body ever since the leader brought her back to life when the alien death god Walker began attempting to slay Death. Marv, Thor, Thanos and Marlo go to Purgatory to protect her, but Walker follows them. He has Marv trade places with Rick, blasts off his limb and ages him over 100 years because it is impossible to pass away in Purgatory. Marlo is taken over by a furious Death, who strips Walker of all his authority. Genis was significantly impacted by Rick's change since different parts of his destiny were thrust into his consciousness. Marv learned that he would later wed Songbird, have 2 children, bring his mother back to life, and vanquish Magus. Rick is quite upset after returning to Earth and tries to take his own life. Marlo's comic store is currently having financial issues due to a new rival managed by the wizard Mahayogi. Yogi constructed the shop in order to amass enough sacrifices to call forth the demon Grendel's mother. However, Yogi is left to battle Marv and Moondragon on his own by Grendel's mother, who isn't willing to assist him. When Rick utilizes his great knowledge of cliché methods to take down villains to assist them in deflecting a spell back at Yogi that would otherwise destroy him, the battle is roughly balanced. Marv flies to the Kree homeworld to seek assistance from the Supreme Intelligence in order to figure out how to get Rick back to his real age. When Ronan the Accuser shows up, he is vanquished and sent to jail. He escapes prison and challenges the Supreme Intelligence. If Marv enters the negative zone and returns with a rare form of radiation, however, the radiation can only originate from a sun. Under the supervision of Blastar's son, Burstar, he agrees to assist Rick. The Supreme Intelligence tries to revive Rick when Marv collects the radiation, but it seems to fall short. Rick, who is out and about in LA, comes upon a woman giving birth in an alley and assists with the delivery. The baby is delivered lifeless, but Rick gives it CPR and he is soon brought back to his actual age. Genis claims that it was a delayed response to the radiation, while Rick thinks it was a supernatural force at work through karma. During this period, Marlo and Rick broke up because of their involvement with Moondragon. Marv starts preparing to manage the power when Moondragon eliminates the mental obstacles to his cosmic awareness. After several months of meditation, he feels prepared. Rick enters the microverse to allow Marv to practice his new talent. When Marv discovers that every problem in the universe is occurring right now and that he must choose one to address, he quickly overcomes it. After making his selection, he then sees every scenario that may have resulted from making a different option. But after he decided to save the lives of an entire race of peaceful aliens rather than a single lady from her boyfriend's murder, this power finally drove him insane. As soon as she was dead, he was shown that she would have been the galaxy's greatest peacemaker, and that peace would have lasted for eons under her rule. Rick gives his distressed friend all of his efforts, but is ineffective. Marv loses interest in the issues facing the universe, abandons Rick in the microverse for months, and stops communicating with him while he searches for a method to rule the universe. Entropy locks Rick in a cave while he is lost in the microverse, where he meets Epiphany. He can flee thanks to Epiphany, which also sparks his creativity and turns him into a microverse rockstar. Marv believes that enlisting in the Kree military will benefit him, but due to his lunacy, he kills his commanding officer and then hangs himself. Marv meets Entropy in death, and the two of them work together to destroy the universe. He also keeps Rick alive and makes an attempt to speak with him for the first time in months, while Rick attempts to persuade them to start the universe over again. Entropy develops second thoughts and concurs with Rick that the universe should be reset to the time before Marv goes mad so that he can have another opportunity. This time, Marv chooses to save the Peacemaker after realizing that if she dies, a terrible war will break out, killing billions of people, and Marv will once more go mad, trapping Rick in the microverse. Epiphany instructs Rick how to utilize the Nega Band link to sci-fry Marv and inflict severe agony on him in order to control him. The technique's disadvantage is that Rick also sustains the same injury. Every day, Marv and Rick will trade places. Marv chooses to assume the part of the crazy deity since he is bored and crazed once more. On Earth, Coven, a murderer who had been condemned and sentenced to death, is miraculously brought back to life after his execution and is released because he had already fulfilled his time. He makes the decision to kill Rick Jones, a crucial witness who testified against him in court as his first course of action. He shoots Rick from a distance, but as he gets close to killing him, he discovers that Marv has taken the place of Rick. Marv is interested in the circumstances and how the Earth court systems rule to disregard any evidence that isn't directly provided, so he grants Coven a portion of his cosmic authority, and they set out to discover a crime that is now being investigated to judge. In the microverse, Rick awakens to find himself surrounded by worried groupies. Thousands of Rick's extraterrestrial followers are camped out on his lawn when he walks to his balcony. When Marv and Coven, who are flying over New York, see Spider-Man battling an extraterrestrial, they utilize their cosmic power to render them both comatose and order them to appear in court. An ashamed Spider-Man decides to go, but the bigger aliens threaten Marv and Coven breaks his neck. The smaller alien that Spider-Man was protecting confesses that it was only a strange sexual game between him and the larger alien. The tiny alien runs away and vows to get back at Captain Marvel. Back in the microverse, Marv plays judge, jury, and executioner as he stands in the way of a fight between two lovers over Rick. The lady has fallen in love with Rick's music and wants to break off her engagement. After executing a rapid marriage and divorce, Marv decides to misuse his authority once more. He then threatens to murder the guy if he doesn't leave the planet, but the man vows retaliation first. Rick is ambushed by the powerful Coven back on Earth, but he's able to beat him off using a rifle he borrowed from one of his microverse fans. In retribution, Marv takes Coven's powers away, but Coven is able to defeat Marv and seize all of his powers. The two aliens who had vowed revenge on Marv at that time on Earth and in the microverse return to their respective worlds with vast fleets behind them to murder Marv. The aliens discovered Marv's depowered body in the microverse and then they dispersed. On Earth, they encountered Coven, who had assumed Marv's appearance after taking his powers. The aliens attacked Coven when he threatened them, but just as they were about to fire, Marv regained control of his powers, killing Coven. Marv claims that there was never any risk since he knew how everything would turn out according to his cosmic consciousness. Later, after Marv has decided that all Kree, Skrulls, and Shi'ar are threats to mankind, Rick attempts to persuade him not to kill them all. Rick is forced to commit suicide by Marv after taking control of his thoughts, but he is shortly brought back to life. The Eternals persuade the three species to allow them a chance to rescue Marv from his madness before they decide to kill him. When Marv and Epiphany arrive on Titan, they discover that everyone has left. Rick informs Marv that Epiphany isn't there and that he is only hallucinating. His younger sister Phyla surprises Marv. Marv has never mentioned having a sister before, so Rick is perplexed by his decision of having memories of them growing up together. When the other Eternals, including Marv's mother Elysius, arrive, she tries to explain to him how they changed reality when he used entropy to change reality. Marv splits reality in two on Titan to kill his sister and mother, but in the process, he is also sucked into the pocket dimension where his abilities have been lost. Elysius explains all that is occurring to him by saying that when Marv changed the world, he combined several conflicting temporal lines into one. This also explained how all of the events that occurred before he changed the world were still true, even if they never actually occurred, since his mother and sister were transported from a reality where Marv had developed into a great hero and never gone insane. She also makes Marv realize that he never had a mental illness and had just only used it as a way to avoid responsibility for his deeds since he was aware of his inability to live up to others' expectations. Rick attempts to congratulate Marv but appears preoccupied since Epiphany's hallucination is still there, accusing him of being mad. Marv brings them all back to Titan and vows to live up to Captain Marvel's moniker. They just underwent reformation, opened a business, and now only travel when requested. Marv resolves to help Rick with his marital issues by covertly broadcasting Rick's songs for Marlowe from his private studio to every TV, computer, and radio on Earth because no one would approach him for assistance because the entire galaxy fears Marv. In order to raise money for Rick, Marv also puts up a website where anyone could download the music. There were almost 3 million downloads in less than an hour, making Rick a billionaire. When Marlowe hears the song, she chooses to go back to Rick, shattering her already unstable relationship with Moondragon. When Rick learns about the broadcast, he is first incensed, but when he learns about the money, he swiftly pardons Marv. Marlowe then bursts through the door and threatens Rick and Phyla. She is about to be turned to dust until Marv intervenes. He recognizes that she is from the future and utilizes Titan technology to set out and stop her fate. When Marv jumps a few hundred years into the future, he discovers that over 90% of Earth's population has been wiped out. The Kree, Skrulls, and Shi'ar attacked Earth as soon as it tried to colonize another planet because they believed humans to be an inherently dangerous species that shouldn't be allowed to exist. Titan technology enables Marv to stay in touch with Rick in the present even if he's traveling into the future. Marv runs across his future self as well as his immortal but otherwise helpless son Eli. Until they can discover a treatment for a mystery illness Marlowe got millennia previously, they are keeping her in their bunker while she remains in a coma. Marv killed every alien on Earth by fusing his two personalities together using the Nega bands to give him boundless power and amazing knowledge of the future. Then, in retaliation, his future self tries to wipe out the alien race, but Marv intervenes and ejects them from his body. Marv flies even further into the future to discover the moment Marlowe went nuts, but instead ends up on a bizarre medieval-style Earth where Eli is the head of a mocked church devoted to Captain Marvel. The people of Earth are forever thankful for his accomplishments and constructed a statue in his honor. Eli claims that Marlowe was taken from her stasis chamber earlier, but Marv realizes that he is lying. He then uses cosmic awareness to try to figure out what really happened, but Eli reveals that he has learned how to use cosmic powers against their users. As a result, Marv switches places with Rick and permits him to question Eli. After taking a significant pounding, Eli fights back by using Rick's Nega bands to propel him further into the future when humans have long ago perished and the planet is being inhabited by extraterrestrials. Rick, who was transported into the future by Eli and lost his Nega bands, discovers that Dr. Doom's hologram is the final trace of humanity. When Rick speaks to the aliens, they point him west to where he can locate what he's seeking. Eli is attempting to revive Magus at the same time as she is with Marlowe, and they are the only humans on Earth. Marv decided to murder his son in his Cipro to stop him from becoming the terrible, powerful tyrant. Following everyone's return to Hyperion, Rick and Marlowe reconcile, which paves the way for Moondragon and Phyla to start dating. Unfortunately, Al, Marlowe's former Cosmic Castle employee, arrives to collect everything, signaling the end of their travels. Rick begins to cry because he has cosmic awareness, which allows him to see things for what it truly is. Al is actually Eulogy, one of the Seven Friendless, a collection of cosmic beings in charge of the cosmos. At the conclusion of every comic, Eulogy appears to tie up any loose ends and gather everything so it may be utilized again in the future. Before speaking with Rick and Marlowe, he uses a portal to send Moondragon and Phyla away. In addition to breaking Marlowe's death wish power and revealing what their futures may have been had their adventures continued, Eulogy also breaks the link between Rick and Marv. The adventures are done, he tells Marv as he drags him out of the microverse. Marv needs some persuasion before he finally decides to accompany Rick and Marlowe through the portal. Because of Rick's song, Marlowe and Rick are sent back to Earth as billionaires and continue living their lives. Let us now explore a comic storyline from Hulk 2008 to see how Rick became A-Bomb. We kick off the story with the death of Abomination in Russia. He was found dead with gunshot wounds on his body. Meanwhile, General Ross, Dr. Samson, She-Hulk and Iron Man try to figure out who killed him. According to Dr. Samson, it was Hulk. But Hulk doesn't use a gun. A lone survivor from the nearby village mentions the word red as the only clue for them to solve this mystery. So they end up going to Bruce Banner, who is in a secluded facility in Nevada at the Gamma base where he first became the Hulk. So clearly, if Bruce is there, it couldn't have been the Hulk who attacked Abomination. Meanwhile, Rick Jones finds himself shirtless on the Alaskan frontier and sees something burn down. How he got there? He doesn't remember. At the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier, Tony Stark, Maria Hill, General Ross and Doc Samson discovered which weapon was used to kill Emil Blonsky, also known as Abomination. They also find the killer. Yes, it is a Hulk, but they know that he isn't the Hulk. No, this one is red instead of green like Banner's Hulk. The Red Hulk is insanely powerful. He manages to defeat She-Hulk, delete all the S.H.I.E.L.D. files on the Hulk and do enough damage to the helicarrier that it crashes. Meanwhile, Rick has reached the Gamma base where he first met Banner. Just then, a voice from behind says, "I thought you were dead." You guessed it right, folks. It was the Red Hulk. And this time, he is here to kill Rick again. Suddenly, something happens to Rick and his clothes tear and he turns into an armored blue giant who says, "Red Man kill old Abomination, now A-Bomb kill Red Man." The two of them then proceed to fight each other and cause an earthquake that starts to split the ground. Banner, who was locked in the underground facility, panics and turned into the Green Hulk. Above the ground, the Red Hulk is trying to shoot A-Bomb, but A-Bomb has an armor that keeps him safe. However, the Red Hulk is still winning. Just then, Green Hulk shows up and fights the Red Hulk. The Red Hulk throws Green Hulk when Thor appears on the scene to fight the Red Hulk. However, as we said before, Red Hulk is insanely powerful, so he even manages to use Thor's own hammer to defeat him. Meanwhile, on Earth, A-Bomb gets Green Hulk out of the debris. Green Hulk questions this behavior, but A-Bomb justifies it by saying that he is Hulk's friend. What makes A-Bomb so powerful? Rick Jones is a physically fit man without any extraordinary abilities. He has acquired a strong, brave attitude and has been trained in combat gymnastics by Captain America. Rick also briefly bonded symbiotically with Captain Marvel, giving him the same powers as Marvel, like matter manipulation, flying, and using energy blasts. With Marvel and subsequently Genis Vell, he was also temporarily able to change his spatial and temporal locations. The Beyonder also momentarily bestowed him with superhuman abilities such as strength, flight, durability, and energy blasts. Additionally, when Joe Fixit was present, Rick Jones accidentally entered the mineral bath meant to unite the Hulk and Bruce Banner, giving Rick Hulk-like abilities. Rick Jones was a typical person by day, but he transformed into the Incredible Rick at night. He resembled the Green Hulk in appearance, a gamma-powered giant with superhuman strength and low brain capacity, but with a mullet. After he turns into the A-Bomb, he acquires protective plates of armor, enormous superhuman strength and durability, and the capacity to monitor both the Hulk and Red Hulk by zeroing in on their gamma signature. Additionally, he possesses the capacity to blend in with his surroundings by almost disappearing like a chameleon. His gamma mutation had left him with heightened intellect as a persistent side effect. A-Bomb's marvelous appearance in other form of media. A-Bomb has appeared multiple times on television. He was a part of the 1966 Incredible Hulk section in the Marvel Superheroes. He appeared as a sidekick of Hulk in an episode of Fantastic Four called Nightmare in Green in 1994. Rick Jones has also been regularly seen on The Incredible Hulk, which aired in 1982. In this, he even had a girlfriend named Rita. In the 1996 version of The Incredible Hulk, Rick actually falls into a radiation-saturated nutrient bath and becomes a teenage version of the Hulk. He also appeared in Iron Man Armored Adventures and Hulk and the Agents of Smash. While he doesn't appear in the films, he does appear in a few video games like The Incredible Hulk, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, Lego Marvel Superheroes, and the Gamma Attack in Avengers Academy. Well, that was A-Bomb, the legendary sidekick who has had a lot of adventures. What did you think about him? Let us know in the comments below. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.